4 spine-chilling cases of terrifying déjà vu. Sinister secrets revealed from the haunted past. Alice stumbled home after another grueling shift at the diner. Tired and hungry, she wasn't prepared for the unsettling shivers that crawled up her spine as she passed the infamous Hartman Place. Its walls, cracked and peeling, seemed to whisper secrets of a family long lost, an echo of despair that traveled through the wind. The air turned heavy, thick with foreboding. Digging her hands deep into her pockets, she gripped her keys like a talisman, her feet moving faster on the cracked sidewalk, desperate to escape the oppressive gloom. The stories about the Hartmans filled the air, in Elmwood murmurs of their sudden disappearance, the claustrophobic darkness that wrapped around the house like a shroud. Shadows danced behind dusty windows, taunting those who dared to glimpse inside. As Alice glanced back, she caught the flicker of a shape. Was it a face? Or just her imagination? Shivers ran down her spine, tightening her throat, forcing her to look away and push on. Home, sweet home. It was supposed to be a safe haven for her and her kids, Sarah and Max. But tonight, something felt broken. They were already in bed when she returned, asleep but not at peace. Max sat up, eyes wide, as if the night itself had stolen his dreams. "Mom, I heard whispers," he said, trembling. Alice brushed it off, exhausted. But when Sarah's soft voice chimed in, recounting nightmares of a woman with hollow eyes watching her, a sense of dread seeped in. The shadows in their cozy little home felt longer, the air colder. Flickering lights and mysteriously moving toys turned the mundane into a source of terror. Alice stifled her own rising panic. Exhaustion was making her jumpy. Days blurred into endless nights. Desperation clawed at her. Ghost stories have always intrigued her, and Nathan, the town's historian, was as obsessed with them as anyone. Maybe he could help. Her heart raced as she reached out, hoping for clarity. "Sure, I'd love to help," Nathan said, his voice warm but his eyes flickering with something else, something more sinister. As they unraveled the Hartman family's story, the deeper they went, the darker it got. The walls of the old house seemed to close in around her, constricting her breath as chilling truths began to surface. "Did you know," Nathan whispered, "my family had ties to the Hartmans? They say secrets drove them away, or worse." His grin felt off, lingering too long, leaving her uneasy. Just when things began to settle, strange phone calls tormented her nights. An unknown number flashed on her phone. Heavy breathing mingling with low mutters kept her on edge. When she opened up to neighbors, they either laughed or waved her off. Stress can do funny things to a person. They didn't understand the chilling grip fear had on her life. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One stormy night found Alice standing resolutely in front of the Hartman Place, compelled by fury and dread. The wind howled, and thunder rattled her bones. She felt the call of the darkness within, urging her forward. The door creaked as she opened it, the air thick with the scent of decay. Each step into the oppressive silence echoed coldly, anticipation washing over her. Suddenly, jolting laughter rang through the shadows. Was she alone? Panic seized her heart, constricting it like a vice. The door slammed shut behind her with a bone-chilling thud. Alone in the dark, fear clawed at her throat. A voice, soft but slithering, whispered her name. The eerie tension twisted into something familiar yet terrifying. As the past seeped into the present, she realized the true horror wasn't just the Hartmans. It was about her own family, the line between protector and prey blurring as she stood on the threshold of fate. The laughter echoed again, bouncing off the walls of the Hartman Place, a twisted melody that sent Alice's heart racing. Terror gripped her as she turned in circles, searching for the source. Shadows pooled in the corners, shifting as if alive, while a pungent smell stung her nostrils, something rotting, forgotten. "Who's there?" she called, her voice quaking. Silence answered, heavy like lead. The air thickened as she took another step, her foot crunching on the brittle floorboards. They groaned under her weight, echoing her fear. Then, something shifted in the darkness. A figure emerged, barely discernible. Alice squinted, breath hitching in her throat. It wasn't quite a person, not anymore. Features contorted as if reshaped by suffering. "Help us," the figure rasped, its words dripping with despair. Alice stumbled backward, her instincts fighting against the pull of that voice. She remembered Max's whispers, Sarah's hollow-eyed nightmares. What if they were right? What if she had stepped into a nightmare far worse than their own restless nights? "Get out." Panic surged through her, screeching like tires on asphalt. She darted for the door, but it wouldn't budge. It felt as if the house itself was trapping her. "Please, let me go." Laughter bubbled up from the depths of the house, since when had fear and madness become entertainment? The walls vibrated with it, shaking her resolve. She pounded on the door, fingers clawing at the wood. Memories seeped through her mind, stories of the Hartman family, tales of the tragedy that turned their laughter into sorrow. "This isn't right," she shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. "Is it?" The figure it shifted closer, its breath a cold mist against her cheek. "Is it right to run from the truth, Alice?" "What truth? I don't want to hear it." Her soul screamed for escape. She stumbled again, but the ground felt unstable beneath her, as if it were tilting. The shadows whispered her name, beckoning her, claiming her, suffocating her. The walls began to pulse, as if alive, constricting and tightening around her, an ancient pulse of the house, cradling secrets long buried. In that moment, a vivid flash struck her mind. Alice grasped it like a lifeline. The whispers at home, the calling from the void. The figure tilted its head, eyes dark pits reflecting a history Alice wasn't ready to uncover. "Do you remember?" It hissed. "You're not just a visitor. You belong here, Alice, just like they did." "Stop." She felt a wave of nausea. Memories cascaded over her, her mother's warning, a tale she had dismissed as folklore. "You're wrong. I don't belong here." Just as the contours of reality blurred, a door suddenly creaked open within the shadows, revealing a flickering light. It danced like a beacon, stirring a primal hope in Alice's chest. Could it be a way out? The figure recoiled, eyes narrowing with malevolent intent. "Don't go to the light," Alice, it hissed. That sinister grin spread wide, exposing teeth like shards of glass, hunger gleaming in the darkness. With terror pounding in her chest, the urge to flee was overwhelming. She hesitated, the light beckoning her closer even as the darkness clawed at her back, urging her to stay. Voices echoed the past, blending with the present. What would she choose? Just then, the door slammed shut, and the vibrant light flickered, threatening to extinguish. The figure lunged, and Alice screamed as she dove for the escaping beam, a split-second choice between nightmare and salvation. Would she make it out alive? Or was this only the beginning of a twisted fate awaiting her family? The foundations trembled as the house echoed with raw energy, hungry for her decision, waiting to see what would unfold in its sinister embrace. Alice soared into the radiant light, every fiber of her being screaming for escape. Cold fingers grazed her back as she collided with the door, a split second of hope anchoring her to the moment. A surge of warmth enveloped her, wrapping her in its glow, but the whispers from the darkness clawed at her mind, filling it with dread. "Help us!" they echoed, blending with her heartbeat. Just as she pressed against the threshold, the light flickered violently, sending shadows stretching and skittering across the walls like dark spiders. The door threatened to close, and she felt it pull her backwards. No, the fear of being trapped churned in her stomach. She gritted her teeth, pushing herself through the threshold, and tumbled into an unfamiliar room. She landed hard on a cold tile floor, and pain shot through her shoulder. Shaking, she scrambled to her feet. The light dimmed behind her, flickering like a dying star. Panting, she turned around. The door was gone. Only a bare wall remained, the paint peeling and revealing something darker beneath. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't the same hallway she had seen before. It felt like a new layer of the house, more sinister. The air hung thick as the stench of decay seeped into her lungs again. She was lost as a sudden creak drew her gaze to the far corner of the room. A mirror stood there, tall and cracked, its surface a mosaic of despair. Alice approached, dread heavy in her chest. She searched her reflection, but it wasn't just her pale face looking back. It twisted, morphing into that harrowed figure from before. "Why did you leave us?" it whispered, its voice a chilling echo of her own. The reflection grinned, a rictus of torment. "You can't escape your fate," Alice stumbled back, sinking against the wall, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Could it be? Was she not just a visitor, but connected to whatever malevolence resided within these walls? The mirror shimmered, and Alice was entranced as it showed glimpses of the past, flickering images like fragments of a broken dream. She saw children playing, laughter filling the air, but as shadowy figures rose behind them, screams drowned the joy. The mirth turned to a cacophony of terror that reverberated through her soul. "Leave them." The voice of the figure rose again, distorted, echoing her thoughts. "Join us." Each cry twisted a knife inside her. She realized those weren't just echoes of the past, but fates waiting to ensnare their newest prey. "I want tea," she cried, her voice raw. The mirror warped, the darkness behind her reflection swirling like a storm. Something shimmered at the edge of her vision, words formed in the murky depths, revealing a warning. "Find the truth, or be forever lost." The edges of the room began to warp, reality bending like molten glass. Panic surged. She had to escape. The air thickened as dark tendrils curled around the floor, reaching for her, eager to drag her beneath its surface. Fear ignited her instincts, propelling her toward the discarded doorframe at the opposite end of the room, barely visible in the shadows. With each step, the shadows closed in, and her breath quickened. Heart pounding, she pushed through the door. On the other side, the hallway pulsated with an unnatural glow, reminiscent of the light she had just fled. Terror and hope twisted within her, the vibrations of the house a haunting backdrop to her survival. "What truth?" she gasped, mind racing as she stepped into the hallway, the echoing laughter of the Hartman Place wrapping around her like barbed wire. Maybe it was only a matter of time before the shadows caught up with her. As she moved deeper into the house, the floor fell away beneath her, leaving her teetering on the edge of an abyss. The house trembled, every crack and creak underscoring the sinister grip it had on her fate. "Where am I?" she screamed, the walls sighing in response. And then she remembered Max, Sarah, the stories whispered in fear. Was she tied to this wretched legacy? Desperate and clawing for clarity, she reached for a memory buried deep, a hint buried in her mind. But wasn't it too late? The laughter crescendoed, drowning out all reason as the shadows surged toward her. Truth or dare? Alice, a door appeared ahead, the gleam of mystery shimmering as the laughter echoed louder. What lay beyond, and could she survive the choice required to unlock its secrets? Alice stumbled forward, her heart in her throat as the shadows closed in. The laughter morphed into a cacophony of taunts, their sinister melody threading through her mind like a dark symphony. The door loomed larger, but so did her fear. What if it was a trap? What if it led only deeper into this macabre nightmare? Truth or dare? The phrase echoed again, each word dropping like stones into her thoughts. With a shaky breath, she crossed the threshold. The door swung shut behind her, sealing her fate with a resounding thud. The air hung thick like fog, pulling at her with relentless pressure. She was trapped, but she couldn't let that paralyze her. Thoughts raced. There had to be some clue to help her escape. The room was darker than the last, a suffocating twilight absorbing any semblance of light. Flickering candles lined the walls, their flames sputtering as if struggling for breath. While shadows danced around her, she focused on the details. The walls were covered with strange symbols, their meanings lost to her. Some depicted faces twisted in pain, while others seemed to writhe as though alive. Alice approached one of the candles, the soft glow casting an eerie light over her trembling hands. She could feel heat radiating from it, but there was an unmistakable chill that clawed at her spine. A whisper slipped through the air, barely audible. "Find the key." She hesitated. Find the key to what? The shadows loomed closer, threatening to swallow her whole. Panic surged as she remembered the warning from the mirror: find the truth, or be forever lost. She moved deeper into the room, brushing her fingers against the damp walls, feeling the cruel texture of something ancient and sorrowful. Her fingers traced one of the symbols, an image of a key surrounded by a spiral of flames. In that moment, a jolt of recognition struck her. Max had mentioned something about keys, about how they held memories forgotten, buried, and deeply painful. What does it mean? She muttered to herself. The laughter grew louder, wrapping around her like a snake. You have to find it. The chorus urged, a mixture of joy and agony. Suddenly, the ground beneath her reeled, and the shadows lurched forward, pulling her into a vision. She was no longer in the room. She was back in time. A child, a small girl with bright eyes, played with a key necklace, laughing as the sun bathed her in warmth. But then the shadows emerged, creeping around the edges of her sight, silencing the laughter with their icy presence. Stop! No! Alice shouted, staggering back as the vision shattered like glass, shards of despair splintering into her mind. Reality twisted again, yanking her back into the room. The key symbol pulsed, glowing faintly. She had to touch it, had to discover if it was real or another trick. As she approached, the shadows hissed, pressing closer, suffocating her resolve. Join us, they begged, their voices thick with desperation. Find the truth. Heart racing, Alice reached out, her fingers brushing against the mark. As soon as she did, pain shot through her arm, forcing her to pull back. Flames flickered in the air, and a surge of energy coursed through her, throwing her against the wall. Breathless and disoriented, she saw a flash within the swirling darkness, the key. It hovered just within reach, suspended in the air where the wall met the shadows. It called to her, a promise of freedom tangled with grave danger. Truth, or be lost, echoed through her mind again, each word wrapping around her heart like a noose. Alice knew she couldn't remain passive any longer. The only way out was to confront whatever fate awaited her. With a final breath, she lunged for the key, and the world erupted around her. The moment her fingers grasped it, the shadows screamed as if wrenched from their depths. The room trembled. What secrets would the key reveal, and were the horrors it unveiled too great to bear? As the tangible silence fell, Alice felt a cold wind slide past her, a whisper curling in her ear, promising revelations and dread. Welcome to the truth. The moment Alice seized the key, a violent pulse of energy surged through her, akin to a thunderbolt igniting her very soul. The air around her vacillated, twisting with an unspeakable force. Shadows recoiled, howling in fury as the key shimmered in her grip, leading her into a new and darker reality. She was still in the same room, a suffocating void, but the atmosphere thickened further, crackling with an energy both electrifying and terrifying. With every heartbeat, the candle flames danced frantically, casting grotesque silhouettes that swelled and shrank like desperate phantoms. The laughter was gone, replaced by a low, droning moan that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, weaving through her thoughts, beckoning her deeper. "What are you hiding?" she whispered into the oppressive silence, the key clutched tightly. In muted response, the walls shifted. The symbols, previously etched into the stone, glowed dimly, revealing narrow pathways among them. Each one pulsed in time with her racing heart, like a dark invitation to explore what lay behind the images of anguish and despair. Ignoring her better judgment, Alice stepped forward, following a symbol that pulsated brighter than the rest. It led her down an archway where darkness clung like a wet blanket. The shadows threatened to pull her back, lacerating her with icy tendrils. The air grew colder. Suddenly she wasn't alone. Forms began to coalesce in the corners of her vision. Faces, twisted and distorted, peeked out, eyes gleaming with an insatiable hunger. They reached for her, whispering tales of bygone miseries, their words dripping with a grotesque intimacy. "Join us," remember, they chanted, their breaths chilled and stale. "What do you want from me?" she cried, feeling the weight of despair crash against her like an unexpected wave. "Your truth," they hissed, and the shadows seemed to inch closer, urging her to unveil the past. She faced the larger symbol at the end of the corridor, now spitting flames, illuminating a grim tableau etched into the whitewashed walls. What was once hard to decipher now flashed vividly. Images of joy twisted into scenes of horror, a family laughing around a dinner table, then morphing into a scene of terror, the table turned over, dishes shattered, screams swallowed by darkness. The fragrance of burnt memories wafted through the air, choking her as it passed, in her gut. She felt a recognition, a recollection bubbling up like bile. A memory from the past flickering, faint but palpable. The boy in the picture. The girl hiding behind him. They had lingered in her memory like lost dreams, creeping shadows racing through her subconscious. Do you remember? The voices intensified, demanding a reply. In a feverish moment, she saw the key's significance, her blood freezing. The key was not just a path to escape. It was a portal to the pain she had buried deep within. It connected her to a truth she had spent a lifetime running from. Nodes of fraught history began to align, sketches shattering into scenes as fear rippled through her. "I want tea," she gasped, trembling, and turned to flee. But the key's power wouldn't let her go. It vibrated vehemently, anchoring her to the vision. As the walls shifted again, shadows tore apart, revealing a vast chasm filled with the whispers, confessions, and dark secrets of all those who had faced its trials before her. With a surge of dread, she lunged back toward the corridor, desperate to escape the weight of her encroaching past. There was no way out, no way to forget the truth darkly swirling around her. As her frantic pulse echoed in her ears, a voice shot through the air, a sound tinged with malice. "You can never escape the truth you hide will draw you back time." And time again the feeling wrapped around her like a vice, pulling her deeper down the rabbit hole. In the heart of the chasm, Alice realized the truth was more sinister than she could have imagined. What had she truly unleashed by taking hold of the key? A sudden lurch in the darkness hinted at a new pathway, vibrating with urgency. What awaited her? As she moved deeper, would she confront her forgotten past, or would it devour her whole? Face your fears, or be consumed, the shadows whispered around her, tantalizing and terrifying. Alice stumbled forward, the key a relentless magnet in her palm. It dragged her toward the vibrating pathway, its pull both alluring and repulsive. The droning moan intensified, reverberating off the walls like a funeral dirge for lost souls. Her heartbeat quickened, each pulse a countdown towards something horrific. "Face your fears, or be consumed," the words echoed, a taunt that clawed at her sanity. Sweat slicked her palms, and she clenched the key harder, feeling its jagged edges bite into her skin. The darkness stretched and curled around her, an enormous beast unfurling, ready to pounce. "No," she murmured, a feeble protest against the growing deluge of despair. But doubt whispered back, "What if you're meant to suffer?" Edges of memory pricked at her mind, sharp and unwelcome. A brief flicker of childish laughter. A door slamming. The acrid tang of smoke, thick and suffocating. Alice shook her head, forcing those images away as she pressed on, the symbols on the walls tightening their grip like cold fingers around her throat. Suddenly, the light shifted, bathing the corridor in a crimson hue. It felt as if the shadows themselves grew translucent, revealing the faces of those who had once traversed this nightmarish realm. She gasped as they emerged. Her own face stared back, twisted in horror. The truth of what haunted this space unfurled before her like some sick, nightmarish tapestry. "Look closer," one of the figures screamed, its voice shrill and desperate, clawing at her with invisible hands. Shadows flickered around it, desperate to consume. "No, I can't," Alice choked out, backing away. But a force gripped her shoulders, a desperate urge to stay and listen. A single image froze her and placed the boy in the photograph. Not just a memory, but a real figure standing beside her. The image burned bright like a beacon in the darkness, pulling forth a tide of feeling and anguish she had long suppressed. "Why did you leave him?" A low voice whispered, entwining itself with the flickering shadows swirling closer. Who are you?" Alice cried, realizing too late that she already knew wretched specters of her past, longing for her attention, for her confession. "You abandoned us." The voices didn't just blend, they unraveled, a cacophony of indignation and sorrow. Each note cut deeper than any steel, every accusation like a lash against her skin. "It's time to remember." Images rolled through her like a hellish slideshow. The boy, tears streaming down an ash-gray face, standing at a threshold. A fire blaze reflected in terrified eyes. The girl with sunlight dancing in her hair, calling out in vain. Familiar ghosts threatened to drown her memories she had hidden. "We are not mere whispers," the figures hissed in unison, the chill in the air now alive with their torment. "We are your past. You cannot erase us." Alice's breath hitched in her throat. The key trembled, pulsating with a dark power she could not comprehend. She was surrounded by sorrow, by blame, and by moments she could not expunge. The urge to flee fought against a curiosity that compelled her to stay. What if confronting her fears was the only way out of this nightmare? A shudder took hold of her, freezing her in place. As the corridor began to narrow, the walls pulsed as if breathing. The echoes morphed, dark laughter rising to a deafening roar around her. Let us see what you've hidden for so long. With a sudden surge, the path twisted and contorted. The light faded, leaving only the hungry shadows surrounding her. She felt the pull again, but this time towards something darker than fear. Would she unlock the deepest sorrow of her past, or allow the darkness to swallow her whole? The shadows folded in on one another, and just as she felt the weight of despair close in, a new corridor beckoned her from the abyss. Beyond its veil lay either liberation or eternal damnation, the line blurred and indistinct. What lay ahead? Would she see the truth in the abyss, or would it lock her away forever? The atmosphere thickened around Alice, a palpable dread suffusing the air as she stood at the threshold of the new corridor. Shadows slithered along the walls like hissing serpents, whispering secrets just beyond her grasp. Each cautious step echoed, a morbid reminder that something or someone watched her every move. The corridor twisted into an archway, an open invitation laced with a perverse allure. Flickering, sickly green light limned the edges. It pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. Alice swallowed hard, the weight of the key in her palm anchoring her thoughts. Faces of the wretched lingered on the walls, their mournful eyes reflecting her own turmoil. As she stepped inside, the temperature plummeted. Goosebumps raced down her arms, prickling like 1,000 tiny fingers. The past surged forward, a wave crashing against her mind, threatening to drown her in memories she had never wanted to confront. The shadows stretched, contorting into skeletal hands that seemed to beckon her deeper into the dark. "What do you want?" she called out, her voice trembling. The silence answered, thick and suffocating, wrapping around her like a noose. "Your truths," a voice replied, a whisper like dead leaves rustling in the wind. "We need your truth to be free." Terror seized her heart. She wanted to flee, but her feet remained planted as if fused to the floor. Gritting her teeth, she propelled herself forward. Each stride was a battle against the lurking dread, but something an insistent pull demanded she discover what lay ahead. In this place, revealing a secret might be the only way to survive. Gone were the faces of the past, now replaced with a single door, the only object in a vast expanse of black. It loomed, old and weathered, with an intricate carved design that whispered of stories long forgotten. Alice's breath quickened, and a sense of urgency clenched her throat. She reached for the doorknob, its cold surface a jolt to her senses. Ice coursed through her veins. Pushing it open, a blinding light forced her eyes shut. When she opened them, she was no longer in darkness. Instead, she stood in a sunlit room, familiar yet foreign. It was her childhood home. Memories flooded back, warm and vibrant, all slicked with the residue of a nightmare. The laughter of children echoed, but it warped into screams. Alice's heart raced. Was it real, or another illusion? "Turn back," a voice shrieked, the sound surging within her like a furious tide. But the past was determined to remind her why she had fled. In an instant, the vibrant room darkened. Flames flickered, growing larger, licking the walls. The smell of smoke clawed at her throat, suffocating. "Mom!" shouted the child's voice from somewhere deep in the shadows. She spun to find a small boy standing there, coated in ash. His eyes, wide in terror, mirrored her own fear. "Why did you leave me?" he whimpered, reaching out with trembling hands. Panic enveloped her. The shadows danced in jubilant chaos around him. She longed to embrace the boy, to comfort him, but the truth wrapped around her like chains, barbed and cruel. With every inch she took toward him, the fire surging behind her swallowed the light, pulling her into a vortex of despair. "Face your fears," the echo came again, but this time it betrayed her. "You can't escape what you've done." As flames roared and shadows closed in, Alice was thrust into a storm of conflicting emotions: guilt, love, terror. Each moment felt like a lifetime, a heart-rending confrontation woven with despair. Knowing she had to choose, embrace her past, or let the darkness consume her, her heart thundered, ideas crashing wildly. Should she turn back? Could she truly face what waited in the blaze? Just then, the boy's eyes glimmered, and she felt the key in her hand pulse again. Would she unravel the thread of her past, or be captured in its deadly dance forever? Alice hesitated, the flames licking closer. The choice loomed, heavy and unforgiving. What would she unlock next? Would the key free her, or seal her doom? The flames flickered dangerously close, lighting up the boy's ash-streaked face with an eerie glow. His trembling hands reached out, desperate and pleading, like a ghost longing for redemption. The heat stung her cheeks, forcing Alice to make a choice, but her thoughts spiraled in chaos. "Don't go," he cried, the voice latching onto her heart like a vice. She felt the weight of his sorrow. The temptation to step back weighed heavily against the urge to cross the threshold of her own guilt. "Please, I didn't want to," she whispered, choking on her words as if confessing a sin. The shadows whispered in response, mocking her hesitation. "Turning back won't save you. You know this." As the flames advanced, consuming the scent of wood and warmth, a figure materialized behind the boy, a woman cloaked in darkness, her features sharp and unyielding. Alice's stomach dropped in recognition. It was her mother, beautiful and fierce, but the rage in her eyes cut deeper than the flames licking the walls. "You abandoned him," the woman spat, her voice a knife twisting in Alice's gut. The darkness around them pulsed, unearthing buried memories of a house once filled with joy, a house that had been turned to ash. "No, I tried to," Alice shouted back, but her words dissolved in the smoke. The heat enveloped her, and she felt its tenacity, a physical thing pressing down. There was nowhere to run. The urgency of the moment clawed at her, a reminder of her fragility. "Face reality, Alice," the boy pleaded, tears mingling with the soot on his face. "You left me here." Suddenly, the flames transformed, their roar morphing into an agonized scream that rattled her bones. The very walls echoed the pain of a million forgotten moments. Moments just like these, where she had chosen self-preservation over love. Could the past ever truly die, or would it always haunt her? The key pulsed in her hand again, burning against her skin, a beacon to her darkest desires. If she turned it, what would it unlock? But as she stood weighing the consequences, the shadows lunged. They reached for her, their skeletal hands desperate to reclaim a piece of her soul. Panic surged. She almost stumbled back, almost let fear dictate her next move. "No," she screamed against the overwhelming tide of memory. But that wasn't enough. She didn't want to hide any longer. "Mom, I'm sorry," she finally cried, feeling years of regret coiling up inside her, ready to explode. "I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was saving you." The shadows recoiled, their grasp weakening just for an instant. The boy stood firm, a flicker of hope weaving through the madness. "You can save us, Alice. You have to be brave, take me with you." But could he really be saved? Would unleashing the truth free them, or bind her to another layer of torment? The walls swayed, the room pulsing in a sickly rhythm as both fire and anguish escalated. "Unlock the door," the boy urged, eyes shimmering with something that felt like belief. In this nightmare, as the fire roared louder, a new sense of clarity washed over her. Maybe to take that step, to unlock her past, was her only chance. The door loomed in her mind, a gateway to knowledge, pain, and potentially salvation. With trembling hands, Alice raised the key, her heart racing. "Here goes nothing," she muttered, as the shadows hissed like angry serpents. Would the truth redeem her, or would it bury their souls together in an eternal inferno? As she pressed the key against the door she had yet to unlock, the ground beneath her feet shuddered. Would she find a way out, or only deeper into the chaos? The moment hung thick in the air, taut with impending fate. Alice held her breath, teetering on the brink of her next decision. What lay ahead could change everything or nothing at all. And behind her, the shadows whispered one last time. "Choose wisely, for your truth shall set you free or shackle you permanently." The key felt hot in her palm, a live wire connecting her to generations of sorrow. She pressed it against the door in front of her, each breath shaky and filled with dread. The whispers grew louder, frantic, pleading voices, echoing her own fears back to her. The door groaned as if it knew the weight of what was about to happen. She hesitated, glancing back at the boy, whose wide eyes shimmered with raw hope. He looked so vulnerable. Could she take him with her, or would exposing the truth only deepen their suffering? The flames danced dangerously close, and the heat radiated into the air like an unwanted hand pressing against her skin. There was no time for doubts. With a quick flick of her wrist, she turned the key. It clicked, releasing a thick cloud of dust that hung in the air like ghosts waiting to escape. The door creaked open, revealing a darkness that felt alive. Shadows writhed within, beckoning her to step inside. "Don't be afraid," the boy shouted, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "You're not alone." Alice took a deep breath, steadying herself against the pull of despair. "I can't keep doing this," she muttered, but deep inside, a flicker of determination ignited. The past had a chokehold on her, but it also held the potential for freedom. She moved forward, crossing the threshold. The darkness enveloped her instantly, chilling her to the bone. It smelled of soot and decay, but something else lingered too: hope, mixed with regret. Images flashed before her eyes. Laughter, joy, and then screams buried in ash. "Mom, Dad," Alice whispered, the names tumbling from her lips like a prayer. Her heart raced as memories flooded in. The house they built, the love enveloping them, before everything crumbled to dust like the very walls surrounding her. Abruptly, disembodied whispers filled the air, darting around her like maddened insects. "You left us," they chanted. "You let us burn." Each accusation pierced her with a sharp agony. It was true. She had run. But now, standing amidst the wreckage, she felt the walls closing in, constricting her chest with every heartbeat. But revenge was not what she sought. She pushed forward, and suddenly, she was standing in a familiar living room, untouched by flames. It was the last memory she had of happiness, the birthday party for her little brother, the air thick with joy. He was alive then, smiling. This is a trap, she realized, her breath hitching. It felt too perfect. And when she turned around, there he was. The boy. Only he wasn't ash-streaked anymore. His face gleamed with innocence. "Come, Alice. It's not too late. Not real. You can't be." She staggered back, the weight of her past clawing at her throat. The shadows twisted around her, the faces of the lost materializing in the corners of her vision. "You chose this," they hissed. "No," she cried, collapsing to her knees as they descended, their forms stretching to engulf her. Her heart hammered against her chest as cold dread spread through her veins. She could smell the smoke now, thick and acrid, suffocating her resolve. Every choice she made echoed back to this moment, a painful reminder of her failure. Suddenly, the boy stood beside her, his eyes glowing with a haunting mix of sadness and understanding. "You can't hide from this. You have to face it." Alice's mind spun. What was hiding? What was truth? The shadows closed in, flaring with sickening intensity, and the air crackled with impending doom. She felt herself slipping, the ground beneath her shifting like quicksand. In that chaotic swirl of regret and anguish, a flicker of knowledge hit her: the door would only lead to deeper anguish unless she chose to confront the demons. But did she have the strength? She reached for the boy, but as her hand brushed his arm, he faded into the shadow. "Face it," he chanted, his voice disembodied yet resonant. With desperation, Alice yelled, "I want to know. Show me the truth." The world trembled, the walls shivered, and a deafening silence settled as everything blurred into chaos. What awaited her now? Would the truth liberate them or drive her deeper into despair? The door behind her slammed shut, sealing her fate. As shadows roared around her, ready to consume her, Alice made a choice, uncertain of the consequences. Would she emerge whole, or would she become yet another lost soul trapped in her own past? The darkness enveloped Alice like a suffocating blanket, pressing against her chest, dragging her deeper into memories she had fought so hard to forget. The shadows swirled, shrieking with the anguished voices of those she had left behind. "Face it," they screamed, echoing off the walls of her mind. She stood, trembling, remembering the boy, the glimmer of innocence in his ash-streaked face. The weight of guilt pulled at her, threatening to crush her spirit. "I want to know," she called out into the void, desperate for the truth and the redemption it could bring. "Show me everything." In response to her plea, the air around her crackled and surged with energy, flickering like a television screen adjusting to clarity. Images began to swirl before her eyes. Vivid and raw laughter, and love swirling into chaos. She saw her childhood home, filled with warmth, people she loved moving around her, their faces bright and full of joy. Yet, the vision darkened. Flames sprung from nowhere, licking at the edges of her happiness, transforming the laughter into screams. She could feel it, the heat nearing, suffocating. "No," she cried, her voice lost in the cacophony. "This can't be happening." But it was. It had always been real, buried under layers of denial. The room trembled as the shadows thrashed violently, howling just outside the reach of light. "Face your fears. Embrace your truth," they chanted in a twisted harmony. Silence cloaked the vision in darkness again, and she felt herself being tugged, pulled, and unmoored. And then, there it was, her brother, standing amidst the chaos, eyes wide with terror. "Why, Alice? Why did you leave me?" His voice cut through the tumult, a painful reminder of her past choices. There was no escaping her truth, no running from the guilt that followed her like a shadow. Gathering her courage, she stepped toward him, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I was protecting you. I didn't know." Her voice wavered, catching at the weight of everything she had lost. "He needs you now," the shadows murmured. The words wrapped around her, a twisted comfort and a harrowing reminder of what loomed before them. The darkness encroached, seeping through the cracks of her resolve. But in that moment, clarity burst like the dawn after a long night. She realized that the shadows weren't her enemies. They were the memories she needed to confront. "I'm sorry," she sobbed, feeling the remnants of regret flowing through her. "I didn't mean to leave you behind." The words tumbled from her lips, heavier than lead yet freeing. All at once, the whispers shifted from accusatory to pleading, the silhouettes morphing into faces that sought understanding. "Move forward," they urged, their chorus swelling. "Unlock the truth, Alice. Let go." The boy looked up at her, tears shimmering in his eyes, then simply said, "Remember." With a deep breath, Alice gripped the key tight, feeling its weight and significance. Not as a burden, but as a catalyst for healing. She turned, facing the dark portal, feeling the pull of a different truth altogether. "The past does not have to bind me," she declared, her heart pounding in her chest. "I am done running." As if responding to her proclamation, the room began to pulse and quiver. The very shadows that had clawed at her started to recede, the air lightening as the warmth of love surged from behind. In unison, the voices grew weaker as the darkness surrendered to her strength. Suddenly, the door, still ajar, glowed with an inviting light. She stepped into it, the world shifting like sand beneath her feet. Just then, she was thrust back into her childhood home, standing amid familiar laughter and love. Her family surrounded her, glowing with warmth, and the oppressive air was gone. Her brother, no longer ash-streaked, smiled at her, a hint of nostalgia in his eyes. "Come on, Alice," he beckoned. "We need you here." And for the first time in a long while, Alice didn't feel afraid. With each heartbeat, she felt whole again, free from the chains of her past. Together, she whispered, stepping forward into the light. The shadows fell away, the specters of her past dissolving into the ether. "Thank you," she breathed as the door behind her closed softly, sealing away the darkness once and for all. From this moment onward, she would rebuild what was lost. With love and hope flowing through her, Alice emerged from the Hartman Place, the spirit of her family alive behind her. No longer haunted by the past, she would carry those beloved memories into a future filled with light, joy, and promise. This was her truth, freed at last. Now, you need to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear every detail. Lastly, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel.